Hello, dear friends, dear international colleagues, Muscovites, and all the delegates of the forum, Moscow Urban Forum. I'm really glad to be the moderator of this session. My name is Pyotr Kudryavtsev. I'm the head CEO and partner of City Makers, and our keynote speech is called "How Do Cities Transform Successfully?" Quite a lot of cities do have big strategic plans. Some of them have some interesting tactics, but only few of them are succeeding. And I think that one of the key points is actually to understand what strategies are good, what strategies are effective and safe, which of them are fast but dangerous, which of them are safe but long, and is there a compromise? And how we should develop our cities in the future. And I'm really glad, again, to greet an amazing person and an amazing professional, Dr. Koon Hean. We already had an amazing talk and got acquainted during the last Moscow Urban Forum, and we had an amazing discussion and very, very thoughtful lecture. Dr. Cheong is currently chairman of the Center for Livable Cities. She's also the chairman of Kuan Yoo Center for Innovative Cities. She was formerly CEO of the Housing and Development Board in Singapore, overseeing more than 1 million public housing flats. She's also CEO of Urban Redevelopment Authority, from 2004 to 2010, and Deputy Secretary of the Ministry of National Development from 2001 to 2016. And all that is in Singapore. And I really wanted to say that it's quite interesting that Moscow is, for a lot of times, compared to Singapore. And we always kind of, although we are very, very different, we have different climates, we have different mentalities, but during the last survey that was conducted by BCG for Moscow Urban Forum, again on the scheme, on the graph, Moscow is very close to Singapore. So I think it's there's a lot of things that we can learn from each other. And I'm passing a word to Dr. Cheong. Amazing to greet you again virtually, and hope to see you here in Moscow sometime very, very soon. Please, we would very much like to hear your keynote speech.
Thank you very much, Peter, and good afternoon from Singapore. For some of you, it's good morning, and for others, it's good evening. Thank you for allowing me to share with you today on how the cities transform successfully. So let me just get into the topic. Well, we all know cities are exposed to multiple challenges and vulnerabilities today, and all these require very urgent, active responses. So, particularly now we're hit by COVID-19 and climate change, which is slow but surely is coming already and affecting us. So, cities face urban risks largely in four main areas. They are social, environmental, economic, and institutional risk. I'm not going to run through this whole very busy table of risk. I think you can read it, but it covers things like environmental challenges would be rising sea levels. If you look at social challenges, it's about pandemics, poverty, inequalities. But we know that the ones most affected are usually the underprivileged and the vulnerable. And as Peter has said, some cities actually handle some of these challenges quite well, while others don't. So the question really is why? So to better understand how cities have really managed to overcome their urban challenges and transform themselves successfully, in 2009, Singapore launched a unique Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize. Actually, the idea is that the prize would honor cities around the world for their outstanding achievements and contributions to the creation of livable, vibrant, and sustainable urban communities. And really through the prize, we really hope to learn from these cities and to help many of our own cities. I think the mutual sharing would be great for everybody. And the criteria, I'll run too quickly. We look for whether the city has leadership and good governance. What are their very innovative urban and policy solutions? And what is the impact? And are these durable and sustainable? And are they replicable and scalable to other cities? And how well do they integrate with the regional and metropolitan level in terms of these plans? So since 2010, we have awarded the prize to 5 cities, namely Bilbao, New York City, Suzhou, Medellin, and Seoul. So today, I really hope to use 12 case studies from these 5 cities that could provide useful lessons for us. So I will just take a walk and a trip around the world to each of these cities. Let's look at Bilbao. Bilbao was awarded the inaugural prize in 2010 in recognition of its integrated and holistic approach in urban transformation. And actually, the city demonstrated that urban regeneration can be a powerful social and economic driver to catalyze change. And if you look at Bilbao, it used to be an economic powerhouse. It had mining, shipbuilding, and other iron industries. But then the global decline of the steel industry in the 70s and 80s collapsed its economic model. And then they had severe floods in 1983. And but through constant rejuvenation and involvement, the city successfully transformed from the industrial decline to a knowledge-based economy today. So what did they do? Basically, they did this through a very visionary and long-term approach to planning. It successfully planned and implemented a total of 25 significant and broad-based urban interventions over 25 years. And as a result, you can see that the waterfront is completely rejuvenated. They have used landmark structures, and we are all very familiar, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, and to help transition the city to a city of services and culture and put Bilbao on the world map. And they use culture, internationalization, and design excellence as key catalysts. So today you can see the complete restoration and rejuvenation of, for example, the port, what it was and what it is today. The city, where, for example, they deck over a rail yard, they brought in housing, public spaces, and lots of greenery. And of course, they believe in the value of design. And the Guggenheim Museum by Frank Gehry was one of its major catalysts. But I would like to say that one of the most important things from a governance point of view was the formation of this organization called Bilbao RIA 2000. It is a publicly funded private firm comprising public and private stakeholders, and it played a lead role in successful redevelopment of the metropolitan area since 1992. And it coordinates and executes projects related to planning, transportation, and the environment, focusing on urban directives from the planning authorities. Now, it's really an important organization because there's agreement by consensus from its multiple stakeholders, and it is institutionalized as a process to mandate land development. And as a result, this approach is less affected by political inclinations and ensures long-term development. So the urban transformation of Bilbao is really closely tied to the funding mechanism and Bilbao RIA 2000. Financial gains obtained through land sales are reinvested in recovered areas or on strategic urban initiatives. So it's been very successful as an organization. Let's have a look at New York City. New York was recognized in 2012 for its remarkable transformation. What can we learn from New York? Well, we all know that New York went through a decline in the 1970s and 80s. They have very high crime rates. The 1990s marked the first sign of turnaround under Mayor Giuliani when he made the city safer. And then Mayor Bloomberg came on board and with visionary leadership defined a bold vision of the future for New York City. And I think you can see the major transformation because they developed long-term plans for New York City. They had a blueprint for a greater and greener New York. And in fact, in 2015, Mayor Bill de Blasio also introduced One NYC 2050 plan, So this is a city that believes in longer term planning. And you can see that the city continued to implement improvements progressively, and over time, more parks were added, and there was a lot of focus on placemaking to improve livability. There's now greater access to parks within the 10-minute walk to mitigate a very high-density environment, and Singapore can identify with New York. And they reclaim public spaces for pedestrians, and placemaking is done for greater vibrancy. And of course, we are now very familiar with the famous transformation story of West Chelsea and the High Line plan. It is really an innovation, an urban innovation, whereby the High Line was really a ground-up effort, first started in 1999 by the community group called Friends of the High Line, and was later endorsed and supported by the Bloomberg administration in 2002. So the city got together and adopted a regulatory and urban design framework for the development of new and affordable housing. And one of the innovations is really the transfer of development rights scheme, which allow owners of property within the High Line transfer corridor to transfer the development rights to designated receiving sites within the special district. So this enabled them to realize their development potential and spur unrealized growth potential within the district. So the High Line is really framed as an economic revitalization project. And today you can see the transformation when you walk along the High Line with amazing buildings done by different architects and very vibrant economically. Another interesting lesson to learn from New York is the lesson about resilience. In 2012, Hurricane Sandy struck New York City and caused damage citywide. And in the aftermath, the city assessed climate change vulnerabilities and began very ambitious long-term coastal protection projects, one of which was the East Side Coastal Resilient Project, as you can see here, that is used for flood protection. Highly innovative ideas that has come out to protect New York from future hurricanes and floods. So resiliency became very important. Let's go to Suzhou in Asia. Well, Suzhou was conferred the prize in 2014 for its success in meeting multiple challenges of achieving economic growth, but at the same time trying to protect its cultural and built heritage, and also dealing with a large influx of migrant workers, a very common story for growing cities. And before, I think, with the opening up of the Chinese economy in the 1990s, Suzhou, like many of the Chinese cities, really faced the urgent need for urban redevelopment, but at the same time faced the problem of the demolition or irreparable damage to its historic areas. So Suzhou has classical gardens that are inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997. So what did Suzhou do? Well, they managed to achieve economic growth while protecting its heritage. And they have sensitively restored the environment and maintained social stability. How did they do this? Well, they channeled growth to new areas, like the Jingji Lake CBD, so that they took the pressure off from the heritage areas and they could continue to protect the heritage areas. So you find that Suzhou now is a mix of old and new, taking a very comprehensive approach to prevent the loss of heritage and the city character. So you see many beautiful projects there. The Binjiang Historic District is protected with its 4 classical gardens located within. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But at the same time, it has built modern skyscrapers that coexist and flourish with the 2,000-year-old classic gardens. Many other restoration projects that are quite innovative. The Stone Lake District is one of the 4 components of the 4 green elements in the Suzhou City Master Plan. And this lake became highly polluted from pollutive activities like quarrying and construction of cemeteries. And they severely damaged the ecology, and there was pig farming and excessive fish farming, which deteriorated the lake. So what they did was to try and resettle the squatters there, cleaned up the lake, and completely rejuvenated the environment. But a very interesting approach was that they devised a 1-for-3 housing policy to relocate the existing farmers to urban areas while keeping issues associated with displacement to the minimum. Farmers were offered 3 units of urban housing in exchange for 1 unit of farm. So what they could do is they live in 1 unit, the second is for the family members, and they could rent out the third. And this ensured that their livelihood is not adversely affected by the displacement. And the success of Suzhou's rapid urbanization brings along another common challenges faced by many cities, the growth of migrant worker populations seeking job opportunities. But Suzhou is different. What they did is they adopted a very inclusive social policies for non-native residents. They gave them access to citizen equivalent benefits such as education, healthcare, employment, and even housing. So this fair treatment policies led to the overall increase in quality of life for all residents, including migrant workers who have gone to live in Suzhou. So as a result of it, these social policies, Suzhou was awarded as the most popular city for migrant workers within China. Let's then now move to South America, to Medellin. Was recognized in 2016 for its success in overcoming challenges of uncontrolled urban expansion. Those who know Medellin will realize that it used to be called the murder capital of the world, and there were severe inequality issues. And what they did was they tackled the most pressing issues. So this is the lesson learned. They tackled the most pressing social issues and then tried to improve the economy and the quality of life. And what did they do? Well, there were a lot of social innovations through a series of urban interventions. Those who know Medellin will know that it's actually in a valley. And so when a lot of workers, migrant workers came and had illegal settlements along the mountainside, but this cut them off from the city, made it the city very inaccessible to them in terms of amenities and jobs. So to overcome this, they developed the metro cable, which connects the inaccessible hillside communities to the rest of the city. It was a very cheap way. For $1, you can get a ride on the metro cable from the mountain down to the city. And it's actually a very beautiful ride. And they also try to introduce cost-effective transport through escalators. They refurbished a lot of escalators and brought them in to give access. And interestingly, they had a lot of other innovations, like they had a green belt to stop the urban sprawl along the mountains, and they developed new public spaces at the Circumvent Garden. And these had libraries, library parks, and many facilities that were developed together with the community through a participatory design methods. And the metropolitan green belt really defines the city limits and prevents further urban sprawl. And the structurally sound settlements were legalized. They started as illegal settlements, but they were legalized as long as they were safe, avoiding displacement issues. And then residents were trained and so that they can get jobs and to give them a sense of place. And now Medellin has moved on to looking at transforming itself through technology and knowledge industries, as we can see here in new districts that focus on knowledge industries. Seoul is another interesting example. It was recognized in 2018 as a role model for megacities with a will to change. Well, Seoul, with the democratization of Seoul in 1995, citizens increasingly desire to participate in local matters. So many expressed opinions on local matters, that there were many conflicts between different interest groups, NGOs, and the public sector. So the implementation of large-scale urban development projects became very challenging. So what did Seoul do to try to overcome this? Well, basically, they embarked on a really extensive public engagement process to get alignment with the community. And there were dedicated government negotiation teams that were set up, and it broke down communication barriers. And they worked with thousands of citizens to work out the vision for their plans and turn them into active players. And they have a conflict mediation division set up. to actually mediate all the different interest groups. And as a result of this participation exercise, they were able to formulate the Seoul Plan 2030. And furthermore, the government launched the participatory budget system and community building projects to give citizens a bigger say in local matters. So you see lots of projects, very difficult projects being carried out. The Kuan Yoo Cheong project is an example. They remove a highway, and so used to be really congested with cars, and they developed a beautiful river. They brought back the original river. They cleaned up a rundown manufacturing district at Dondemon and brought in the Design Plaza by Zaha Hadid to become a hub for culture, fashion, and design. They converted many of the above ground highway roads into pedestrian malls. They pedestrianized a lot of streets. And again, as I said, they brought back the river into the heart of Seoul by bringing down a highway, which used to displace the river. But I want to say that the laureate cities shared something in common. They all had visionary and strong leaders who led the transformation, as we can see here. They had very strong mayors and who set up institutions and governance frameworks and engaged multiple stakeholders to get their plans implemented. And it is also about institutionalizing processes to ensure that the long-term plans would carry on beyond their terms in office. Because we know this is a big challenge for most cities, how to get long-term plans to continue to be implemented. And so let me summarize quickly the lessons learned from the 5 laureate cities. First, we looked at social challenges, and you could see that they focus on improving quality of life and also focus on greater equity. They engage people, provided an environment where you can get access to amenities. They integrated vulnerable groups, focus on placemaking using culture, design, heritage as catalysts. And to meet environmental challenges, they focused on sustainability and resilience and prepare for climate change, building transit-oriented developments. And if you look at economic challenges, they try to diversify the economy, create jobs, train the residents, create an attractive investment climate, and create self-sufficiency as much as possible. And finally, good, strong governance. They had plans for the long term. They had strong leaders. They institutionalized processes for implementation, engaged stakeholders, had plans that are transparent, and foster ground-up processes. So I think we can learn a lot from these cities. But there is no perfect city, and all cities are a work in progress. And for many of these cities, they still struggle with problems like traffic congestion and lack of affordable housing. So it is always trying to improve and to bridge the gaps that each city has. Now, I just want to end by saying that we are all familiar with the 17 Global Sustainable Development Goals by the UN. And if you look at these goals, many are still not achieved by many cities, even the laureate cities. And of course, COVID-19 has upended many of these goals. For example, out of 17, I think at least 13 are impacted. For example, population living in slums now face higher risk of exposure to COVID-19 due to high densities. Jobs are affected, economic activities are impacted. So going forward, even laureate cities that have won prizes really need to think about how to build back better. I think this is the phrase that's been going around. Everybody wants to build back better, and we have to think about how do we do that? How do we build our cities to be sustainable, resilient, green, and inclusive? What sort of recovery can we have? And so this continues to be a work in progress, and I think the story will unfold itself over the next few years. For those who are interested to know more about the laureate cities, this is a link that you can go to and you can read about the cities. I think it'd be interesting for us to go back and look at these laureate cities to see how well they have or have not managed the pandemic. And again, there are many lessons there for us. Thank you very much. I will stop there. Peter, back to you.
So I think for a Russian, for a Muscovite, one of the most important challenges is something that you said in the last part of your speech, is about how to make these long long-term plans possible, and how to make each next leader follow the same path. Because I can honestly tell you that I think Russia is mostly coming to this habit, I would say, because every leader, every new mayor, every president, I think also wants to have its own agenda. And this is something that is, from one point of view, a very good thing. Maybe some things are more controversial. But I also heard that, like Seoul or Tokyo or and some Chinese cities, they have a long-term plan up to, 2050. I actually even heard that in China they have plans for hundreds of years also. For us it's unbelievable, because I think we live like in terms of 1 to 3 years, and this is kind of a time of building of a house, or a housing district, for example. Like the planning, the building, and now this is it. So, what do you think? What do you think is the key? What is the right balance? And what could be the system of how could a new leader, a new team in the city could follow the plans that were implemented and the previous team started?
Thank you for a very good question. Well, I'm an urban planner and I believe in long-term planning, but I understand all the challenges. I think when you plan long-term, it doesn't mean one plan. It means that you continually plan. You have a vision and things are dynamic. There are socio-economic changes, and you have to keep revisiting this plan because things have changed, and also you have new leaders. But I do believe that most cities want the same thing in the long term. Right? They want an efficient city and a highly livable city, good quality of life, good housing, good amenities and utilities, which means water, sanitation. You want to be sustainable, use energy well. I don't think these things change very much in the long term, whichever city you come from and whichever leader is in place, because this is what the citizen wants. Mm-hmm. So the issue is you still need to plan long term, and it doesn't have to be planned to the nth detail, but there is a general sense of what you want to do. And mm-hmm. once you have these plans, how do you make sure they continue? I think there are a few ways. In some of the cities like New York and Seoul, you can see that they involve the citizens. And when you involve the citizens to do the plan, even if you have a new leader that comes on board and may change certain facets of the plan, but the citizens remember this is what they have told the leadership they want. Mm-hmm. So that's important, right? Mm-hmm. So many of these aspirations should more or less carry on. The second, so that first is developing the plan from the community point of view. Mm-hmm. What do people want? The second point is that you have to institutionalize the plan. So in many of these cities, they have processes where the plan is a statutory plan or it is institutionalized, and you have champion organizations that try to make sure these plans get implemented beyond multiple administrations. And yes, well, you look at New York, they've had multiple mayors, but more or less, each time a new mayor comes in, even with his own new ideas, more or less some of the basic ideas still get implemented. Right? And over time, these become cumulative improvements. There were some South American cities. They changed mayors and they're from opposition parties. But Medellin is a very good example. When they won the prize, the mayors from the present mayor and the previous mayor, who was from a different party, they both came to receive the prize because they continued the plan. So I think you need to institutionalize the plan as well.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting. I also think that, and I think that will be the first maybe question that I'll ask you the next time when we meet, is actually how we find this balance between the really strong and powerful leader and the democratic procedures, because sometimes I think that some new like really beautiful architectural things, like for example Zaryadye Park where we're sitting right now, it would take like I don't know 10 years even to discuss everything with the community. But still, I think that if projects are realized this way, at first listening to people, and then the leader is taking the lead and making the process. This is the ideal life, and I really hope that we will all learn how to do that, and we will plan for long, and this will make our cities beautiful and prosperous. Thank you so much again, Dr. Cheong, and I hope to see you finally face to face after the end of pandemic next time for the Urban Forum. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Stay safe.